Podcast. Hey, turn into the podcast. We on the couch. We pulling to the couch. It's called a podcast. Hey, yeah. We on the.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen up. The couch has been broken into 4 pieces because we have a special guest joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we talk about a lot of things. We go from relationships, sports, but now we're talking about building a brand, building a business. Everybody loves real estate. Everybody wants to be a real estate mogul. Everybody's seen trucks on the road and wonder, where in the hell is this truck going? Well, guess what? We are here on the couch to give you some insight because we got the inside tip. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, I'm going to let him introduce himself. He's the grown man. I'm going to let him do his thing. So I'm going to toss it over to you, sir. Please tell the people about yourself. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. My name is Monwell Chassion. I do have to say something about my last name. It's Chasson. It's not Chassion. I understand it's spelled a certain way. But anyway, from New Orleans, Louisiana, good old city boy. I'm not a fan of the country. I ended up going into the military straight out of high school, and I enjoyed it. And I appreciate the military for what it's done for me, Air Force to be specific. And I now have 3 kids. I have a wife. And I'm a Christian man. I will make that known. And very, very benevolent person. I love people. I love interacting with people. And, also I'm an entrepreneur. So that's pretty much the gist of, my life. Of course, there's details in everyone's life. So here I am in the flesh.
Now you say you're an entrepreneur, but listen, man, somebody get prayers. Give me the knife. We have to cut this onion. He trying to be like an onion, trying to be all closed up. He says, I'm an entrepreneur. That could mean so many things.
Yes.
Please, when you say entrepreneur, tell the people what you do, man. Don't be ashamed. We got you here for a reason now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what I do, and I say what we do, myself and my wife, we own a VRBO / Air BnB. Most people are more familiar with Air BnB. And basically we look at a profit margin on that. And that's basically applied to, our residual income, if you will. And we're also involved in hotshot trucking. We haven't gotten over to the rig side, the 18-wheeler side, but that's what I say. We haven't gotten into it. We haven't gotten deep into it, but we are actually commencing a hotshot trucking business. And so we have dabbled into it. We've earned an income from that as well. And this is what I mean by entrepreneurship. We have multiple streams of revenue.
Okay, so boys, where do y'all want to start? We got the trucking game, we got the Airbnb. Where do y'all want to start with this?
I got, old Hadrico always got a story for everything, but I ain't gonna even do it this time because trucking. I want to start with the trucking because when I was a shorty, my uncle used to make us ride with him in the truck, and they went a lot of places. So I'm familiar with the trucking world. Them truck stops is real. There's a lot of craziness popping up at them truck stops. Some things the kids shouldn't see, some things they should see. But I know you said you're not into the 18-wheelers, but when you say you're in the trucking, first off, how did you get into that part of your business? And how do you find a way to make residual income with the trucking industry? And before you answer, Mo, you mentioned shotgunning as well. Can you let people know what that is all in your answer?
Yes, it's hot-shotting. So
hot-shotting, thank you.
Yeah. So the terminology, it's just basically where the way you look at it is trucks are taking a shorter route, and they also they deal with a less load than you would say an 18-wheeler. So if you see, say, a Walmart 18-wheeler riding on the highway, that's not hot-shotting. Hot-shotting is more so it's really the technical term for it, or should I say the technical description of it is when you're moving loads that are less than 26,000 pounds. And what I mean by that is you have what's called a GVWR, a GWVR, something like that. So if you look on any car, any truck, if you open the door, you can see what the actual weight is. And that's basically what that number applies to. And so with that, it has to also, you have your trailer, or should I say gooseneck trailer, these things are aggregated into an actual, pounds. So when you go into a weigh station, you'll have a certain weight. So when you put things on the trailer, this is what's considered the gross weight. So you cannot go over 26,000 pounds in order to be considered, or should I say, everyone uses the jargon of hot shotting. So if you go over 26,000, now you're moving into the CDL portion. So that's the difference. And, hot shotting, you can have a CDL license, but most hot shot trucking is just non-CDL. And it's an easier way to get into that industry, to where you don't have to go through the nuances of filling out all the paperwork and going to, CDL school and, getting registered, getting the whole, medical, physical to actually get into that particular side of trucking. So it's just basically shorter routes. To be more specific, we use, it depends on what your preference is as far as hot shot trucking. Like if you wanted to use, say, a Dodge, a Ford, you're not going to go into the lower versions of those trucking versions. You're going to go into, say, a 250, a Ford 250. You're going to go into, say, a Dodge. A Dodge would be more on the 2,500, 3,500 side. You're not going to go into the lesser side because it's not going to be able to pull what you need to pull based on, what the low board is actually asking you to pull, from point A to point B.
So you mentioned
go ahead.
When you say
Fred.
hot shotting, like what are you actually like hauling? Like what do you actually like carry around? What's the most
everything, man, everything that you can think of. So if you think of a company, if they need something to be moved, it's going on the back of that trailer. We talk about, generators to AC units to, not food, of course, that's a different kind of truck. We can think about anything that you can put on a pallet. It can be moved on a hotshot route, or should I say, an actual truck or trailer that can haul that load. That's that'll get you less than 26,000 pounds.
Cool. So circling back to the beginning, like how do you get into this? Because I know as a veteran, you was a civil engineer,
Yes.
but how did you? What made you go into trucking?
It wasn't something that I always thought about. It's not like, when I was in the military, I was like, oh, I want to get into the trucking game. Really, entrepreneurship is about finding what avenue you can get into, not necessarily the easiest, but rather, how is this going to be lucrative and how can I apply it to my own knowledge of, having a business propensity, and can it actually work? And so I assess the risk. I say, okay, well, I have to buy a truck in order to start my business. So that's what I did. I went out and bought an F-250 and I said, okay, now what do I have to do? Now I have to get an LLC for this. Now I have to fill out the proper paperwork to get an MC number. However many levels you want to take in order to get into a particular industry, that's what I did. And so I never thought about being an actual, a trucker or anything like that. I just said to myself, I need a way to make money without working for anybody. So this is one way I can do it where I don't have to go to school and it's not gee whiz, it's gee whiz knowledge. You can go on YouTube and learn how to do this, to be honest.
That's exactly where we learned it.
Now,
That's exactly how we learned preparing.
Exactly
For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. And, with that said, man, and you mentioned the LLC, and I know Perez was shaking his head. Like, you don't have to list the steps or whatever, but just for people that kind of fear doing that, because you hear a lot of people talk about LLCs, DBAs, and all these other things involved with getting the LLC, but they just simply don't have the knowledge or the want to push through with that paperwork phase that you mentioned. So how did you push through, and just lightly, kind of touch on the LLC and how that paperwork phase, how you got through that?
Yes. So it came straight from research. I didn't it wasn't like I was, anyone was holding my hand through the process. And when I mean by research, I literally went to Google and typed in how to start an LLC. Now, when you do that, it may seem like, okay, Google is going to give you the easiest answer. But when you actually dig into it, not that simple. So you have to, carry the mindset of not being discouraged, when you go into that commencement, when you go into that portion of, starting the LLC. So the first thing that I had to do was realize the state that I'm in. Okay, well, I'm in Texas. So who do I have to deal with in order to start this LLC? Well, I have to deal with the State Department, which is located in Austin. It's 45 minutes away from me. So I have the option to actually go down there and drop off my paperwork, or I can do it online. So, of course, we all take the path of least resistance. I decided to do it online. And to be honest with you, it was painstaking. And what I mean by that is when I filled out the paperwork, if something is off, I mean, a letter, a dot, whatever, they're going to send it back to you, say rejected. So you have to get everything in order. You have to be sort of an orderly person in order to start an LLC. You can't just say, okay, I want to start an LLC. I'm going to fill out the paperwork and, you're misspelling words, or, you have something that's not what they're looking for as far as, a name that may be connected to your business that, I would say otherwise that it's not going to be, fruition for your actual business. So they look for that. They look for, okay, who's involved with your business? If you have business partners, they make sure, okay, this person doesn't have a felony or a warrant. All of these things matter. Not, of course, I'm a veteran, so I wasn't a question on that, but I got my LLC for free. And the reason why I say that is because I'm a veteran. So you have to look up these things. Okay, typically people have to pay $300. All right, how do I get past that? Well, I'm a veteran. Texas loves veterans.
That's new news. That's new news.
Yeah, Texas loves veterans. So as a veteran, and I think they stopped it this year, if I'm not mistaken, it stopped in 2020, but I had to verify my veteran status to the State Department. And once I did that, I had to go through the proper procedures of going through the Texas Veteran Commission. I got my, how can I put it? I got my verification from them, and I had to shoot that paperwork up to the State Department. And so State Department said, okay, he's a veteran, waive the fees. LLC started.
So once you got your LLC and begin to use that towards your company, now, real quick, of course, you don't have to get into the dollars and cents of everything, but we all know how, especially our people work and how people work in general.
Absolutely.
In this trucking business, what can be a realistic financial gain or outcome of amount of money that can be made if done properly? Now, of course, there's no guarantee. I can't say, hey, if you start a trucking business, you will make this amount of money. But let's say all things go fairly well according to plan, and you do things the appropriate way through the proper steps. What does the monthly residual income look like, a ballpark figure in this arena?
I'm going to go with the median, which is the average. And the median you can make around $7,000.
Worth my time.
You said worth my time?
Yes.
I'll leave that number on the table because that's actually feasible. Now, do you have to hustle to do that? Yes. And there are a lot of hotshot, trucking businesses that are actually doing that, and even more. And I say that that's the median. You can go up to $10,000 with one truck. So it's just all about building, I won't say a rapport, but yes, I can say rapport, because if you're going to a particular site or a company and you're delivering to them over and over and over, they start to recognize you. They want to deal with you and you alone. And what I mean by that is, it's all based on the load board. And load board is, there's a couple of companies that actually do it. So when we're looking on the load board, we have to see if sort of the juice is worth the squeeze. Is this going to be worth my time? Because all of this is based on rates. And what I mean by rates, we're talking about mileage. How much is this broker / company going to pay me to deliver this load? If they're going to pay me $2 a load, and my gas is going to cost way more than that, in total, or should I say in sum, then it's probably not worth my time. I'm not going to make a profit off of it. But if this company is paying me $4 a mile and it only, say cost me $2 a mile in gas, then it's probably worth my time. And so when I go to that company, they start to recognize me. Okay, hey, I want to deal with you and you alone. I don't have to go through the low board anymore in dealing with that company. I've just gained a client.
Now, with this load board and this pricing, is this something that you're able to negotiate with these companies, or is the load board pretty much set? Like, hey, this is what we pay per mile. Either you want to work with this, or you're going to go somewhere else.
Yes. No, you can negotiate. You can negotiate, especially if they're trying to get the load from point A to point B and no one is picking it up. They'll capitulate. They'll say, okay, well, yeah, we'll go up on our rates if you can get this done.
So with that said,
capitulate.
Yeah, I know. He been watching his Stephen A. Smith. Very articulate. Very articulate. But no,
somebody get this man a load.
On some real stuff though, man. So I was looking at the load board. I don't know if you come across, and we've been in the same circles as far as Air Force goes. Do you know
Yes.
Griff by chance, or of him?
That name sounds familiar.
He's real.
Like I told you,
He's real cool with Parker. He's real cool with Parker. They real fly. So he has a truck, and he goes cross country now. And he showed me the load board, and I, after 19 years and doing all these different type of things in the Air Force, and all of us, and what you've done in the Air Force, it blew my mind how easy that load board was to understand, implement, and then be like, okay, I want this load to go to this location. All right, at this location, I'm gonna pick up this load, and just really kind of piggyback off of every last one of them. Right. So it got my wheels turning, and like HUD said, man, that sounds like good money to me, and it sounds like something that I don't really have to spend a whole lot of brain power. Not to disrespect the industry,
no,
but it's just like we're not tapped into it, man, and it just blew my mind looking at that load board. Yes.
So not to cut you off, brother, there are felons that are doing this and making bank right now. Because this does not require something where you have to have, this extravagant history. Anybody can get into this. And that's what I mean by, if you have the mindset of saying, okay, I want to start a business, I got a hustler's mindset, so this is what I want to do. Trucking is the way to go. Now it's getting oversaturated. And I don't know, how the business is looking right now as far as, what this COVID-19 has done to the economy. But I do know, if you do have an entrepreneurial mindset, that anytime an economy picks back up, inflation is going to, everything is going to go on the upside. You're not going to see a decrease, especially, for instance, the stock market. All of this stuff has to do with the trucking industry. And once you see the big picture of that, you say to yourself, okay, I do want to start a trucking industry. I do want to start a trucking company, and therefore I'm going to. What do I need to do? Okay, you get into it. It isn't rocket science. Like you said, you looked at the low board, easy money.
Now, real quick, because I know Prez got a question. I think I'll be real quick with this one. Now, you're on the hot shot side of the house. Mm-hmm. And I know on the other side is the CDL. What is the biggest, other than the certifications and the training, is there more money to be made in the CDL because you're going further? Or is this better to be on the hot shot side of the house because it's kind of not a quicker pace of money, but it's quicker because your route is nowhere near as long. Mm-hmm. And right now, I know you mentioned you had one truck. Are you still currently at one truck, or is this something you're trying to grow into where you can have your own fleet and then possibly transition to that CDL side of the house as well?
Yes. So the key word there is fleet. Every single trucking business wants to get into the 18-wheeler game. You would be a fool not to, because that's where you get the bread of your money at. Obviously, a customer is going to pay you more if you can haul, more nomenclature for them. So obviously,
I like him.
Yeah. So obviously, you don't want to stay in the hot truck. You can. If you got 5 trucks, of course, you got some trustworthy drivers. Yeah, you can make it happen. But why not have a fleet? You see Walmart. When you look up, I never paid attention to freight trucking. I never paid attention to, people actually hauling loads in the 18-wheeler until I got into this industry. And I said, I see them all the time now. I see them all the time. And I see the big brands, Walmart, you got, people moving furniture, rooms to go. And these people are actually, they have their own business, but what are they doing when they don't have enough people to actually move these loads? Well, they need to subcontract out. If you have an 18-wheeler and you can deal with these companies to say, hey, I can move your product from point A to point B, and you have an 18-wheeler, they're going to pay you more than having an actual hotshot truck.
Because you can move more, and that's good.
Exactly. That's the name of the game. Yeah. So hotshot, but there is a lot more difficulty when it comes to 18-wheelers. And the reason why I say that, it's just paperwork, and you have to follow strict guidelines. Like, you can't drive over a certain amount of time. And all of this stuff is logged. Like, you have to be actually getting rest, in order to drop off a load, say for the next day. You cannot just keep moving your truck, and pounding back Monsters and Red Bulls. Like, you can get in trouble for this stuff. You can lose your license. There's a lot more that comes to having an actual CDL license.
Oh, Mo,
Yes.
the question I got for you, man, is so I'm more into tuned at like how you started up a business, like how you got up in there and got started, because you said you got out of the military and you wanted to work for yourself. Was the trucking your initial bid that you wanted to go into, or was it something else and you came about and learned this along the way and got to where you was at, or was it what you wanted to go in from the get-go?
No. My first business was actual government contracting. And I, listen, like I said, I'm transparent. That was a failure of mine. And you have to go through that, man, as an entrepreneur. You do. So I started a government contracting business. That was the first business that I actually started when I got out the military. That's not to say that I didn't work for anybody. Of course, I had to do something to provide for my family. But I'm talking about entrepreneurship. When I got into that took a breath of my time. And I didn't realize that I was so green going into such a big, monstrous industry that this was going to take years in order for me to make a profit from. You have to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed when it comes to government contracting. And so anyway, that was my bug. Once I started that, everything else started floating around, and I was like, okay, well, this didn't work out. I had a baby. I had to kind of let government contracting go. I needed money. I started working again. And like I said, I don't have pride. I needed to make, work what would be best for my family. And so I said, okay, I need to start another business. So I went into the Air BnB game / VRBO. I bought another house, which is risky, for anybody. Like, are you kidding me? I only got one. I only have a certain amount of income, but I had to take that risk. And what started me off with that, and I'm going to give credit to my homeboy, Jawan Williams. The reason he's one of the pinnacle reasons why I started to become an entrepreneur. And he was also into government contracting, mildly successful, but the boy had 5 Airbnbs. And I said, okay, how much money are you making? He showed me his bank account. $23,000 a month. Y'all heard me.
What'd you say?
$23,000 a month.
Okay.
Pardon me?
Right.
Yeah. Airbnb?
Yes.
Airbnb.
This is what five.
Let me get my pen. Writes this down. Writes it down on the list of things to do.
Why do we even talk about trucking?
I have no idea. You should have led with that.
So continuing. Yeah, that's what started me off, man. I went out and bought my own house, me and my wife, and we just said, okay, well, let's see if this works. The worst thing that can happen, we sell the house. Yeah. I mean, think about it. I mean, it's a win-win. Okay. If it doesn't work out, if it's not giving us a profit, we just sell a house. Now that can be difficult in itself, but you have to take risks as an entrepreneur.
Right. So before you got
it up.
Okay. Before you got the Airbnb and the like, what went into your research over doing it? Because of course you don't jump into it. So like, what went into your research and why did you choose the location you chose and so on and so forth?
All I needed to do was listen to my homeboy. That's the only thing I needed to do. And that's, let me go into this point. I'll be very, very brief. Us as Black people, we need to listen to each other when we see one person being successful. That's very important. If you knock another man for growing and increasing his lifestyle, then you're on the wrong path. I listened to this dude. This dude showed me his bank account.
He didn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's all I needed to see. So from that, I said, I want to do that. And so I make a portion of what he makes as far as the Airbnb, but it's still residual income. Only thing I'm doing is I'm looking at a nightly rate and how much I have to pay as far as mortgage. And this is, the name of the game is gross profit, a gross margin. So how much do I have to pay for mortgage, utilities, and how much am I making that month? Okay, this is my cutoff. I'm paying this much and all the utilities and mortgage. Anything after that, that's coming into my pocket. So the Airbnb game, I based it off of that. Okay, off season, peak season, summertime, people coming to San Antonio, BMT families, people got to graduate. Families coming in town, they say, okay, well, I don't want to stay in a hotel. Well, I need a house to stay in because I have a family. Here you go, ma'am, sir. We got something for you. And I'm sort of, putting in an anecdotal sense, but this is what business is all about. It's about gross profit. How much money, I give you a service, how much money can I make off of this?
No, I got a good one, fellas. And this is something that's not on the sheet and it's easy, something you can answer, Mo. But it's on what we were talking about in pre-production, Prez, the fear. How do you get over the fear of failure? You know what I mean? Because me and Prez have different outlooks on it. Like right now, being that I'm about to retire, I feel fearless because I've been doing the same old thing for damn near 20 years. And I want to go out here and do some things. And if I fail, I'm cool. But Prez had another, he had another vision on it because he was like, man, if I fail, this is on me. You know what I mean? And
I got my family still. Like, how do I get that portion?
Right. So how did you get over that? Because you mentioned you had a baby on the way or a baby here at the time, and you have 3 kids in total. Have a wife, and not to say that she doesn't work, but you feel as old fashioned as we all do that we got to take care of family. So how did you get over that fear of saying, you know what, I'm gonna get this truck, I'm gonna get this Airbnb, and you took a huge risk, man. Like a lot of people wouldn't take because they're comfortable with the status quo, with getting a job and just kind of riding that train, man. So yeah, can you briefly touch on the getting over the fear?
Absolutely. So the one thing I think about, and I'm strictly answering your question, is you have to think about residual income. So what's the risk assessment here? All right, so how much income do I have coming in? All right, so I got disability, I got my wife's disability. If my business fails, am I going to be okay? Now, there are some people that are way more riskier than me, and they say, you know what, I got an idea, I'm going to quit my job. And they have no other income coming in. But I had to have a backup. But it's still risky because all I have, no one knows my bills. I might be going right down to zero or in a deficit every single month, just living off of what I have. But I want to make more money. So how do I do this? How do I get over that fear? And to be honest, that click, that epiphany that came was really, I got so comfortable when I was in Italy in the military of how much money I was making. I said, I want to be back at that number. How do I do that? I can't do this with what I'm making right now. So I said, let me go ahead and, talk to people, do some research. And that's what I did. And so the fear, which no one actually knows what that is because it's an immaterial source. It's something that we think about. It's something that we have to battle. But getting over it, it's on each individual on how they do that. So with me, I became this, I would venture to say that I've always been a fearless person. I just didn't know where to apply my fearlessness. Well, entrepreneurship was it.
So in this game that you're in with the entrepreneurship and you have the Airbnb, so it's easy to sit here and say, hey, you know what? My man made $23,000 a year. We're going into Airbnb, a month, and we're going into Airbnb and we're making money. But let's give people that Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde. What's the ugly side of being an Airbnb owner? Because I guarantee you every day and every tenant can't be the best tenant. So what are some of those ugly sides that if somebody listening to this is saying, you know what, honey, we're going to start an Airbnb. Let's make sure we're giving them both sides of that equation.
You get one bad review, your Airbnb is going to suffer. And what I mean by review is your guests get to review on your service. So as they say, the customer is always right. If you want your business to survive, if they complain about, say, oh, it was some dust on the windshield and the rest of the house is clean, but you see this little bitty, minuscule thing inside the house, and some guests we've had like that, you have to say, hey, okay, how do I rectify this? Because I don't want them to leave a bad review. All right. Well, okay, we'll take off, $20, $30, $40. They're fine with that. Okay, well, thank you. And I got a good review. They write on the review, hey, host was very, very, he scrutinized every single situation, every problem that I had. And that's what it was. That's the ugly side of having an Airbnb, is dealing with the guests, the tenants, because you're dealing with personalities. Some people are like, okay, well, it's a little dust. I'm not tripping on that. But some guests are like, all right, there's a spot here that they missed. I want my money back. The rest of the house is clean.
And did you find that some people do that just kind of because, I'm not saying that I did it, but I know people who look like me who may have complained about it.
I don't believe you for 1 second.
Yeah.
You know what? I ain't do it. That's a telltale sign. He did it.
What are y'all talking about? Like, this is so disrespectful. I'm hosting an interview right now.
You gotta throw some personality into it.
I'm working with unprofessional people.
When you work with friends, we know
like
you.
Like I said, I'm not saying I did it, but people who may look like me may have. So, like, for example, you go to a restaurant and if you complain that you're finna get this meal for free, sometimes you can get halfway through the meal and be like, you know what, I ain't paying for this. Watch this. And so how do you gauge between that tenant who is being overcritical or because that review is so critical in the Airbnb game that you kind of take the loss on that one, kind of similar to some of the restaurants or some of the other businesses.
You have to know if you're willing to let your business suffer and let your pride step in the way and say, you know what, I didn't like this guest. I'm not gonna attend to, whatever the complaint is. Then that's a decision you have to make. Me and my wife, every single guest, let me take that back. One guest, we have to return their money. So with this, you have to keep your house clean. We had a cleaning lady. She didn't clean all the way on that particular booking. And this guest traveled from, I think, Michigan. And so when he got there with his family, that long trip, that house was not up to par. Partially, it was our fault because we didn't check it. However, we trust our cleaning lady, which she's no longer with us.
Damn.
Yes, you gotta make
one strike and you're out.
When you become a entrepreneur, you'll see you have to make decisions like that. But so we got, the guest got there, man, and he just wasn't satisfied. There was a roach on the floor, and there was some mold somewhere, and our cleaning lady, usually she's good at, telling us, hey, something is wrong here. We're going to have to fix this. She didn't say anything, I don't know what happened. But that guest got there. We had to give back all his money. We lost that booking. And that was about $1,500. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So those are the downsides of it, man. Like, it's going to be ups and downs in it, but your ups have to be the customer's always right. You have to, if you want to say, okay, well, this customer this customer is not going to run my business. That's on you. You got to make that decision. But my worst guess, and I hate to say this, and you guys probably are already predicting in your head, my worst guess are Black people.
Family.
Nope.
No.
Black people. And that's not a hit on our community. I'm just telling you from my experience, it's always been our own people that causes some kind of problem in the household. And even with my homeboy, it's always them kind of guests. That's not all of them. I'm not bashing our community. I'm just saying that from my experience, it's always our people.
Damn.
Yep. Unfortunately.
That's truly unfortunate, but unfortunately, it's sad to say that I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Harder on our own than we are.
Harder on our own, bro. Yeah. And don't, never mind. If they know that you're a Black host, if they know, okay, a Black person, I'm telling you, man, it's a different dynamic. And I have no idea why. Because I can only imagine, okay, if this was a white host, you'll be up to par with keeping this house clean, not leaving it dirty, not breaking anything. No, when they find out you Black, it's like, oh, I get a pass.
Yeah.
You see it all. You see it all the time immediately. You know, when people meet and they think that they don't even know what your race is, but then when they meet you, it's kind of like, oh, you're a brother. So they kind of immediately drop that defense.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, man, that's unfortunate. Perez, you had something?
I think you touched on it already. My next little portion I was going to talk to about building your workforce. Like, so entrepreneur at a point you want to expand, you want to get bigger, you want to just quit doing stuff on your own. You want to own, and you have to build your workforce.
Right.
So when you was going through yours, you had the incidents. You went through a couple of hires and resources. Like, what is that process like? Can you explain that a little bit? Like, how at what point you made it to, and you realized like, hey, it's time to move on and get some help out here.
Yeah.
And
that's hard. That's hard because I'm genuinely a nice person, and I hate that was hard for me to let go our cleaning lady. But I realized that, CEOs, they have to make tough decisions. Supervisors have to make tough decisions. You guys know. I mean, if a supervisor have to give you Article 15, probably it's not something he wants to do. Yeah. Maybe he does. I don't know. But the ones that don't want to, they still have to do it. They have to make an executive decision. And so I had to do that. But with my trucking business, I do have a long-term friend of mine that's coming on board. He's actually going to be driving my F-250. And I think that, and this is what I've seen from other business partners of mine, or should I say colleagues, that they've implemented where they put their family on board first. That's not to say that, the consanguinity is going to get you the loyalty. It's just that you want to deal with family first, because dealing with a stranger, it's like, gosh, that's a bigger risk. Mm-hmm. But you are risking something when it comes to family as well. But that's my homeboy, and he's looking, he's like, okay, I won't work for you, man. And I told him, I said, look, when we dealing with business, it's business, bro. It's nothing personal. You got to make sure you make it to these destinations. If you don't, I'm sorry. This is my livelihood. This is my family. If you cared about me enough, you do what you got to do to make this actually work and grow with my business. But if you don't, then I got to let you go, because my family is more important.
Yeah, and that's how it's got to be.
Are you currently looking for silent investors?
I'm not there right now. I mean, I have to go incorporated for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because when you got an LLC, I mean, of course you can't have shareholders. I mean, that's a different type of corporation. But
we're keeping it silent.
Keeping it silent. Now look.
This ain't no Tory Lanez. He got it. Y'all didn't get it, but he got it.
I'll feel you. No, I mean, to answer your question, bro, like the way that I am, if I got somebody that's like, especially Black people, if they want to say, yo, man, how can we start a business together? yo, let's talk about the ins and outs, and I'm down. Like I'm being dead ass. Like if any of you guys was to contact me and say, yo, bro, I got an idea, I think this is gonna work, I'm gonna look at it. I'm gonna say, okay, what's the business plan? Yo, let's go 50-50. Let's go 60-40. Let's go, 80-20, whatever, however we want to set the initial contribution up, I'm down with it. You know what I mean? But that's the only way that I can answer that as far as having an LLC. Yeah.
I got one.
I understand that. That's fair.
I got one question before we let you go. So now that you've, and we probably touched on it a little bit throughout this time, but so now that you've got your feet wet in the Airbnb game and also with trucking, what things have you learned along the way to where you're like, you know what, I'm gonna expand out. I may do dispatching, or I may do things like within the freight. Like once you get to, once you level up, do you see yourself kind of expanding out and doing other things within the industry now that you've had some time with it?
Yeah. So freight brokering, you're not going to just come off the street and get into that. No company is going to want to deal with you when you're green on that side of the trucking business. So dispatching is like the way to go first, because on the load board, what you're like, if you actually have an arbitrary sign there, meaning it's confined to your business, there's a rating that you get on the load board. And companies can look at this, okay, and it sort of tells them how much experience you have. It doesn't say how long you've been in the game, but it does tell them, okay, this customer approved, this rating, this customer approved this rating, and so they make decisions off of that. When it comes to freight brokering, now I don't know how this transitions over, but I do know that there is much more that goes into freight brokering than dispatching. Dispatching is just one side of the game. Freight brokering, that's when you start dealing with, you actually putting stuff on the load board, because dispatching is, okay, I'm taking stuff off the load board and I'm supplying it to my drivers. Freight brokering is, I'm not dealing with no drivers. This is how much I need this load to be moved. And if someone takes it, whatever I got from the company as a freight broker, that's my money. Now, I don't know exactly how much that may be sometimes, but to give you a ballpark, say $10,000 from a company to move, a certain amount of freight from point A to point B, the freight broker might say, well, I want to make 8,000. I'll put this on here for a certain amount of mileage corresponding to, how much the driver or the company would actually want to make based on their rate, as far as fuel and hotel and all that. So they have nothing to do with that. Freight brokering is how much I get from the company. That's another game you got to get into, and you got to have some experience to actually get into it. So yeah,
it's like the pimping of the truck game, technically.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
So I think I got one more question.
Yep.
Guys, do you have any others? Because I can hold off.
No, I really feel like you did a really good job. I think you opened up my eyes to a lot of different things that I didn't understand, and just the objects and where you can kind of get into this stuff is very interesting.
Yes.
Okay. You got anything else?
And your vernacular is quite extensive. I'm just saying some of the soliloquies that you gave were just monstrous.
He just wanted to use soliloquies.
Yeah, he just wanted to.
Yeah, I use it.
So I do want to
the propensity for yeah. But now I do got one before.
The questions.
I got one more before I lose my thought process on it. So I'm always with the, man, what's the hidden cost here? Like, what is the stuff that you was like, you know what? I got this covered. I researched this. I researched this. I researched that. But damn, this came into play and I had no idea about this license or this fee. Where, like, you can explain for either one, like any examples you have. You don't have to list them all, but like, I'm always one for the hidden fees, like on Verizon or AT&T. Like, how did you get in there and get over those hidden fees, or you know what I mean?
Well, it depends on what industry you're going into. Some industries, it might not cost you anything as far as, capital to get started. Some, you might have to have a buttload. And like, for instance, if you're trying to start a McDonald's, you're not going to go into that for free. I mean, if you're just making bracelets and you're selling it on Instagram, I mean, what's your cost? I mean, you're just buying beads and some strings. That's not to knock people that make bracelets, but I'm making a point of, it depends on the industry that you go into. So with the Airbnb, I mean, we're talking about, a $215,000 contribution. Now, of course, I had to get a loan for that, but that's what I had to apply in order to actually start that business. With trucking, I had to buy a truck. So that was $45,000. Now, if you wanted to, say, open up a storefront and you got some idea of what to, I don't know, sell donuts or whatever, all of these things are going to cost money. It just depends on what you want to do. And so if you're looking to have a low startup cost, and it's not going to cost you anything out of pocket, then you may have to get a loan. If you got a personal savings, which when I started my Airbnb, me and my wife we had a stack. I had no idea we were going to be using our savings to actually start a business, but we ended up doing it. That's what a savings is for a rainy day. But our rainy day, became sunny when we ended up deciding to be entrepreneurs. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the mic drop right there.
Okay.
Chris, you said you had something, Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to say you had talked earlier about you had said your first little part, the contracting, was a failure. I said I wanted to tell you, man, I would never look at it that way. It's a point where it's called experience. You got the experience, and you come out and you can teach like us, like where to go on this. Absolutely. You was just winning all the time. You ain't never got that experience of what it's like to actually like go through these troubles and everything. And I find it less that I listen to leaders who don't have that that little part, because you don't know what it's like when it's rough. Like you can't tell me how it's gonna grind, how you're gonna do. And I don't know how you're gonna act when it's rough. Like, do you just cash it all in and run out, or just So I definitely appreciate you on that part, and definitely look at that as a success on, like, from the get go. Even though you was a failure, it was you saying it was a failure, it was a success in my eyes. Like, you learned from that, and you learned what you had to do to keep moving, and you kept on moving.
Absolutely. You're harder on yourself than anybody else, man.
True.
And you have to be. If you're not, then if you always praising yourself, you're never going to learn anything, man. It's just your pride just overtaking your entire life. And that's not who I am. And you can't be an entrepreneur like that. Mm-hmm. So
For sure.
Definitely.
I will tell you what, man. Great.
Just want to say again, however long you was in the military, you was in. Definitely appreciate it. All the time that you was in. Not many people take that strive. So anytime that you was in, I definitely appreciate it. And
absolutely. Same to you guys, man.
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, definitely, Mo. Let's stay in contact and have these conversations and keep us updated of your progress, man. I know everybody don't want to show it off on social media, and that's not the thing. But definitely, if you got you moving and making some major moves here. So as you progress, let us know, man. This might be something that none of us were thinking about, but it's something that we want to get into. I feel like you don't have to be passionate about something in order to make money on it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So we can use these type of things to fulfill our passions, as I like to see it, man. So once again, man, we appreciate your time, man. Much more success on your business, much more success on your educational endeavors and everything with the family. This was a blast. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of good things from it. This is very basic conversation, good conversation that brothers need to have a lot more of. And with that said, man, DSC out.